All right.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the segment, the Bought Out and Spent Recovery from Compulsive Shopping and Spending. I know on the library website, it mentioned that we would be dealing primarily with online shopping, and we will talk about that, but we're going to be talking about problem shopping and problem spending, and a lot of it is online, but not exclusively. So we'll kind of broaden our net here. So I'm just going to leave this up on the screen here while I'm talking. I'm not going to read everything here, but just a little bit about me. and So long story short is I live in Southfield and I'll be 56 in about a month. And I've been a licensed social worker and addiction therapist for 25 years. And I worked in the drug and alcohol field for 7 years. In the last 17 years, I've been self-employed working with compulsive stealing, primarily shoplifting and employee theft behaviors, compulsive shopping and spending, and hoarding disorder. And probably out of those three, the stealing, spending, and hoarding, the hoarding topic has probably been the most popular one for me to do these public talks through a lot of the libraries here in Michigan. And then secondarily would be the overshopping, overspending. So, but I love presenting to the public and trying to educate and destigmatize some of these problems, which can be very embarrassing and confusing. And so I'm hoping, wherever you're here tonight, that you will learn something, and hopefully we'll also have a little fun too. I believe in having fun while we're learning. There will be some time for Q&A at the end. I'll do my best to keep track of the time here. I did leave my cell phone in another room, but I'll find the clock here in a moment. But and we'll can I admit people too here as they come in? Okay. All right. So
We
any
got it.
questions, okay. So, and also, so I don't know how many of you are in recovery. We've all heard that term, recovery, whether formally or informally, however you want to define that, from, an actual addiction or at least a bad habit. While compulsive shopping and spending are not yet recognized officially as, real disorders, I think one day that will happen. Rome's not built in a day. And it is a controversial topic. I agree that sometimes we call everything an addiction. We need to be a little careful. And by the way, if something is an addiction, it certainly doesn't mean it's an excuse, but rather possibly an explanation for what is going on. And People probably know what addictions are, whether you've been through them or you've studied them or you've known somebody with them. But in a nutshell, they're a kind of a behavior that becomes kind of excessive, and continues over time, and there's some element of a loss of control over the one's behavior. And there often is a denial system, meaning everybody around us might know that we have a problem, but we may be the last to know. So that's common. And there are different kinds of theories about how people get addicted to things. There's genetics that might play a part. There are traumas and losses, particularly during our more formative years, childhood to even 18, but doesn't stop there. People can have dramatic losses and traumas and disappointments and betrayals and poor stress management skills, and who we hang around. That can influence how we become addicted, or so if a lot of our friends are shopping, that might be just the way we fit in, and before we know it, if a lot of friends are drinking, we might be prone to kind of joining in and having a problem. And I do relatively believe that we live in a highly addictive society where a lot of the messages are go, 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 haven't got time for the pain, push through it, be number one, be perfect. There's a lot of messages directly and indirectly from our culture, sometimes our family, and that can be kind of hard. And a lot of times we'll do anything to take the edge off after a stressful day or a stressful week, or just never feeling good enough. So a lot of the issues I work with in therapy, it's kind of like an onion. What gets somebody in might be a shopping problem, a stealing problem, a hoarding problem. At one point, I worked in the drug and alcohol field, and those are actual problems. But as you peel back the layers, you find a lot of different issues going on, and that's where it also is important to get sensitive and effective treatment. So again, a little bit about me. Why don't we move forward? Oh, I think I gotta do this. Okay. So what we hope to learn tonight a little bit is kind of how to define compulsive shopping and spending. And how common is it, particularly in our country here, the US of A? We want to learn a little bit more about why people might be vulnerable to getting into these kinds of addictive compulsive behavior patterns, and some of the background issues of why, why people get hooked, and a few of the different treatment strategies and resources out there. So there's books, there's a lot of research online, there's video clips, educational video clips, including on my website. We'll hopefully watch a short video somewhere in the middle of our 90 minutes together. There's specialized therapy, there are support groups, and family education. Even our loved ones, hopefully, if they don't have the problem, but they have somebody who does have the problem level, just trying to educate the family or the partner or friends, things like that. And even if you've never had a problem with over shopping, overspending, and you're just kind of here tonight maybe because you know somebody or just kind of curious about human nature, one of my favorite sayings is, you never know. If you live long enough, you never know when you might develop a kind of behavior that you've never had for the first part of your life. I see a lot of early onset problems in people's lives, possibly from youth, up through maybe 20s or 30s even. Midlife onset can happen where problems can occur anywhere from mid-age, however we want to define that, 40 to 60 roughly, and even later onset. I've had people who started over shopping, overspending in their 70s and 80s. So you never know. And that's the same thing with stealing and hoarding and drinking. You never know uh, as we live, what comes up in our lives, stresses, losses, traumas, disappointments, all kinds of changes. So it's good to get educated about all kinds of different behaviors. And I know some people say, well, are all addictions bad? What about exercise? Well, my view is by its very definition, an addiction is a problem. It creates negative consequences. So even in, we have workaholism. Working hard is good. Being a workaholic, not so good. Codependency, people who overgive their money, their time, their energy, or take care of everybody else but themselves. Being a caring person, good. Being too caring, not so good. Sex and love, good. Being a sex addict and a love addict, not so good. Shopping is okay. I don't have any problem with shopping, but it is rapidly becoming a problem for many, many millions of Americans and people around the world. All right, just to wet our whistle here, a few little quotes. Some of you may have heard some version of these, or you can imagine kind of. So this is a big one, and this can apply to any addiction. You can never get enough of what you don't really need. And that Samantha's nodding her head. So that can be, and we're susceptible. So work, 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 work. Money, money, money. Yeah, we all think we need money, but we need more than money. Food. How much food do we really need? We've got an obesity epidemic. We've got a prescription drug epidemic. We've got a technology addiction epidemic, and we've got a shopping epidemic. And shopping is, oftentimes we're filling a void, or there's something going on, or, it's soothing us temporarily, and it's very insidious, especially with the internet. And all kinds of addictions have really kind of exploded with the onset of the internet in the last few decades. So now people can gamble online. You don't have to get in your car and go to the casino or even to the store to get lottery tickets. You can obviously shop online. Pornography is more available. Hookups and affairs have escalated through all kinds of things that we can access. Getting drugs and alcohol, video games, workaholism. You can work 24/7 from your phone or from your computer, even if you're on the beaches of Bermuda. You just can't put the phone down. So we all need to be kind of aware of that and try to watch ourselves. We used to build civilizations. Now we build shopping malls. That's a little outdated. I mean, they're still building malls, but now there's virtual malls. But you get the picture where people would maybe kind of go out to eat more, to museums or to cafes, or the park and things like that. Now it's kind of like, people can live at the mall. You got everything there, and you can walk and jog in the mall, or you can meet your friends at the mall. And So there's something that's been going on that's pretty insidious. Yes, I have a sense of humor. Tammy Faye Baker, you might recall her. She was a very colorful figure, the wife of Jim Baker, a televangelist. I always say shopping is cheaper than a psychiatrist. Again, I have a sense of humor, but that is actually a very profound statement, because in a way, people are engaging very commonly and regularly in what we sometimes call retail therapy. And that is not always good therapy. And this may or may not apply to everybody, but there's a saying, he or she who dies with the most toys wins. Like, if we can just get a big house and a big car and all these great clothes and everything. I'm not a minimalist. I'm not against material things. They have their place, but I think a lot of times we're missing a lot of the other things in life. And again, very insidious. We need to check ourselves. And our youth today too, though there are many great qualities of a lot of our younger people growing up, I think in general, from what I've experienced and read, they're a lot more tolerant and accepting of diversity, and they think outside the box. And they're growing up in this age where they can get anything they want on the internet, or go on and hack in on the internet and get their parents' credit card, and the toys that they're looking for often are a new iPhone or something that costs hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars, where probably some of us, I'm 55, we maybe kind of waited till our birthday, a holiday, or a special occasion to get something nice. But now it's like anytime they want it, they can think they want it or think they need it. So I think we're all living in that immediate gratification kind of culture. So how do you define compulsive overshopping or overspending? Um, there are different terms first. So compulsive shopping and compulsive overspending can be kind of interchangeable in a way, but some people actually are just spending a lot of time compulsively shopping, but maybe not even buying anything, or buying a few things, but they're not necessarily overspending, but it can take a lot of time and energy and focus. And then overspending can actually be either a long period of time of spending on a lot of things over a lot of time, or maybe just going on and in 1 minute doing a lot of damage by buying something very expensive that might be out of your budget. A lot of my clients are doing a combination of both. The term shopaholic can be kind of used too. There's a term called compulsive buying disorder, which has kind of been one of the kind of terms put out there to describe it in a little more formalistic way. But how would you know if somebody were, let's just use for simplicity's sake, a shopaholic? We're not unmuted here, uh, but here's a little line I use. You might be a shopaholic if, and again, we need to know more information. You could see somebody who's drinking a lot and jump to the conclusion that he or she is an alcoholic, but you might not know just from a little glimpse. You could see somebody who is very heavy, and you might jump to a conclusion that they are a compulsive overeater. You got to back up and look under the hood, and you need to know. So we do need to be a little careful. You could look at somebody with some clutter and label them a hoarder. We need to know more. But, you know, if you have a general sense of things, what are some things we commonly see? Well, we not always, but debt, debt problems with extraneous or discretionary spending. Some people are in debt on a credit card for things like medical bills, and or they're out of work and they're just trying to put food on the table, so they got to use a credit card. We're not talking about that kind of debt. We're talking about discretionary income. So generally, it could be a combination of material things, where people are buying too many clothes, too much jewelry, too much makeup, too sporting goods, electronics, furniture, uh, cars, homes, and even non-material things like things like going out to eat a lot can be expensive. And especially during the COVID, a lot of people have kind of, ordered, carry out or delivery or DoorDash, and that can add up. If you're not careful, you can get into the habit of just the convenience and not even looking at how it's adding up. So we call those lifestyle expenses. So vacations, going out to eat, concerts, things like that, all of which I'm for. And in general, I mean, I will admit, I often with my clients say, look, I'm not opposed to your spending money, but you're getting a lot of, kind of stuff, and maybe not even using it, so it's hanging on the hanger or it goes in a pile and you're buying things. Really, a lot of times people are buying more for the sake of the feeling they get from buying rather than the actual objects. Because if you're buying so many things so readily, it's pretty inconceivable that you're going to be able to enjoy thoroughly what you're buying if you keep buying things at a pretty steady clip. So, and like with the gambler, everybody thinks that gambling is about the money. That's kind of what lures us in, maybe, and is kind of a marker of whether we're up or down in the gambling. But it's really the gambling that is providing the relief or the distraction or the high or filling a void more than the money, whether it's won or lost. So if I win, if I have a gambling problem, I'm going to keep gambling at some point and probably lose. If I lose, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to keep gambling till I win. And then if I win, I'm not going to stop, for very long at least. So it's more and as some of you might have known or saw in my opening slide, so I'm 55, but from age 15 to 25, I had a problem with shoplifting. And I didn't even know that that could be an addiction, and it's still kind of early in the stages, but I feel that I had become addicted to that behavior because I could afford the things that I stole. Um, I was an otherwise honest person, but somehow I gravitated toward that at an age, and I found that even though I knew right from wrong and it made me feel a little guilty, somehow with my particular brain chemistry or my personality, the issues I had, somehow that getting something for nothing did it for me. And it wasn't about the stuff, but it was more about the behavior. So again, with the shopping and the spending, because a lot of times people think of overshoppers overspending. Here's where the stigma comes in, and I can understand it. What are some of the kind of maybe not so nice kind of labels we might call people with the over shopping problem? Again, you're not unmuted, but I'll say it for you. I mean, uh, superficial, materialistic, shallow, um, irresponsible, immature, um, um, lazy, crazy, all kinds of different words. And largely that doesn't apply. But we might look at the debt on the credit card or the stuff around people or the fact that it's hanging on the thing and we might go, what is going on with this? But really that's what an addiction is. They're getting something out of it. It is giving them, it's actually releasing chemicals and they're feeling something and it becomes for many people highly addictive, also based on their values or their particular issues. Um, so it's more than a just a phase. It usually can be kind of something that begins again at any point in your life and continues. And even though it's creating negative consequences, you can't seem to stop. So you get into debt, and now you're stressed out about the debt. The average person would say, whoa, I got to get a handle on this and like cool the spending. And some people can for a while, but a lot of them can't. The debt is stressing them out. So what do? They go shop again to take their mind off the debt. And that begins kind of this vicious cycle. There's a saying, what is the best cure for a hangover? Another drink. And so we get into that. And no matter how smart we are, how educated, how wonderful we are, addictions are the great equalizer. I don't care whether you're young, old, black, white, male, female, or every pronoun in between. In one sense, that's the beauty of recovery, is it can bring people together who maybe are very diverse in one sense, but they have a common problem. So you're getting a little flavor of what it is. And when is it a real problem? Well, it can be a real problem early on or midway or later or all throughout. And again, unfortunately, a lot of people are in denial, and particularly with shopping addiction, as I'll just call it too. The challenge is it's perfectly legal. Everybody shops to some degree. It's greatly encouraged in our culture. And a lot of people will say, well, at least I'm not a drug addict or a gambling addict or a shoplifting addict or whatever. And it's kind of looked at kind of sometimes really as a joke, but it's no joke. I've been working with this for about 15 years, and the people that I work with, most of them are married. They're having severe marital arguments. There's a term called financial infidelity. I did not create the term, but it happens. I think you can get a flavor when one partner is hiding their purchases, maybe ringing up debt unbeknownst to the other partner. Maybe that partner with the shopping problem is managing the finances. Maybe they aren't. They may be hiding their purchases conveniently in different clever ways. They may be lying about where they've been. And then the bill comes due somehow where the partner finds out. And it doesn't have to be the partner. Sometimes just a family member or a loved one, but often it's the partner. And often people feel so hurt and wounded. I've often heard it said that the partner will say, I had wished you'd had an actual affair rather than this. Now everybody's different, but often they mean that because the betrayal is similar, and now you're out a ton of money. It could be like you thought you're ready to retire, but now you have no money because it's all gone to credit card debt. Some people end up draining the kids' college education fund. Some people feel suicidal or attempt suicide. It can be very devastating. Um, Having a relatively healthy relationship with money, credit, things, saving is not often taught in our culture or even in our families. So we kind of have to figure it out on our own sometimes. But it's one of the most important aspects of our life. I hope you can see this. I know it's a little bit, again, you might be a shopaholic and these are just some of the things that we often find. And if you answer yes to more than a few of them, then, it starts to kind of look like, okay, this is a real problem. So, do you take off for the stores when you've experienced a setback or a disappointment or when you feel angry or scared? Now, if that happened every blue moon, it wouldn't be a problem. But when that becomes like your go-to coping for any of that on a regular basis, you can see how that becomes, a habit pattern. Is your spending disturbing to you or maybe even others? Is it creating any kind of chaos in your life? Again, I could be in flat denial about it, but if I'm really being honest with myself where I start to come to the truth, that we hear that a lot, we see that a lot. Do your shopping habits create conflicts between you and someone close to you? A spouse, a lover? It's great if you have a spouse and a lover, right? Right? They're one and the same. Parents, children, do you often buy items with your credit cards that you wouldn't buy if you had to pay cash? And we probably all raise our hand to that. And we're going to soon be a cashless society. It's so easy to buy with credit card. And people end up starting to put everything on a credit card versus like sometimes paying with cash or writing a check every now and then, or a debit card that maybe has a limit on it. So, probably from what I've read, like the average person, the average American, if he or she is primarily using credit cards for almost all of his or her purchases over the course of the year, probably is spending anywhere between 25 to 50% more than if he or she had at least varied it a little bit, just not using the credit card all the time. Now it's great for our economy because we're putting money in the economy. Yeah, be a good American, but it doesn't work so well if then we have to file bankruptcy or then the government has to help us out. Not that there's anything wrong with that, or that you've got to borrow money from mom and dad, or you haven't put anything in the savings or the stock markets or bonds. So it's not really a good, it sounds great for the economy, but when you're broke and then you're unemployed and then you're getting divorced and all these kind of things, and then you're having to get mental health services. I mean, it's really pretty chaotic. When you shop, do you feel a rush of euphoria and or feelings of anxiety? Now, our brains are wired to do things that feel pleasurable. I mean, a drink ought to feel pleasurable. A drug, if you're using it judiciously, so to speak, could be pleasurable. Gambling could be pleasurable. Eating should be pleasurable. Um, but if you're getting too much of a pleasure, it can be a warning sign. You're getting a high, it can be pretty intoxicating. So we want to kind of keep an eye on that. I used to actually hate shopping, but I actually do enjoy shopping. I'm more of a bargain shopper, but I have to be careful even about that because I've never traditionally been a person who overshopped. I already admitted I was a former shoplifter, so but I did buy things too. But I've learned how to like shopping, but I still have to be careful, and I can see how even as a person who I wouldn't describe as like just a natural shopaholic, it can be very insidious, especially online or anything related to a bargain. I did like the 5-finger discount, so you could figure I'd be a bargain shopper, right? Sometimes people feel like they're doing a forbidden or reckless act. Maybe they grew up being taught to be frugal, and maybe there's a little rebellion going on and they have mixed feelings about it. It's exhilarating, but they feel guilty or they feel ashamed. And that can be part of the hook where people get addicted to that whole rebellion thing. Um, and here's a big one. If you were buying so many things, we hardly use them, seldom wear them, enjoy them. It's your money and your life. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but I think most of us would rather, be somewhat um, mindful about our shopping and enjoy the things we are using our money for. Um, Here's another one. Often with addictions, as I kind of alluded with the financial infidelity, there's some form of lying or at least minimizing going on. Hey, honey, where were you? Oh, well, I had to just stop by the veterinarian and pick up some pills for the dog, when you're really, kind of browsing the mall, or, you're locking yourself in your room. The bitch says, were you watching pornography? No, worse. I was on Amazon for 5 hours. I mean, there's a lot of that, because we're embarrassed or we don't want to cause conflict, but then the lying becomes kind of part of the, uh, often with addictions, people lie about their drinking, about their eating disorders, about their shopping, about their gambling. I certainly didn't tell anybody for 10 years about my shoplifting. So there's that lying element. Sometimes it is flat denial. People really don't even know they're lying, but a lot of times they kind of know they're lying and they're just scared or embarrassed. They want to avoid conflict, but it becomes a pattern to lie, 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 and that is part of what fuels addiction. Would you feel lost without credit cards? Yeah, I think maybe we all would in some way, but if you're a shopaholic and you're using a lot of credit cards, it's like taking the bottle of booze away from the alcoholic. No, I mean that's how it feels. And actually, a lot of times that is what happens with couples. Now, I work with men and women, but 80% of my clients are women, because that's kudos to women. They still tend to admit a problem more readily than we men do, and they seek help more readily. But men are catching up, especially with the internet, because there are almost as many male shopaholics as women, partly because of the internet, but they still aren't seeking help a lot. So a classic case here is, I'll have a female client and her husband, although I work with LGBTQ, clients too. Let's say her husband, though, has taken away the credit card, probably with good intention. Yeah, maybe he's a control freak, sometimes true, but he's scared, and he's trying to take away, like taking the car keys away from somebody who might drink and drive, or in this case, even go to the mall. But people can now do it right from their home, and you can imagine that usually doesn't go too well. Then there's a rebellion. The partner finds ways around it, and it's just a mess. And there's a parent-child dynamic that's not healthy, but I can understand how it happens. So there's a lot of interesting issues that happen in therapy. Um, and do you think about money excessively, how much you have, how much you owe, how much you wish you had? And despite whatever stress you have, then all that piles up and you just want relief. So you go shop, and so that's the whole nature of it. And juggling accounts and bills and juggling lies and the whole thing. Very similar to any kind of addiction. If you've had one or known somebody, it's just another drug. So why do people overshop or overspend? Often my first and general answer is, why do people do anything? And if we're talking, why do the people engage in addictive overshopping or overspending? I don't think most people plan it out. Most people don't plan to become addicted to whatever they're addicted to. And sometimes I say, I can't always determine why somebody became addicted to cocaine versus marijuana, or um, bulimia versus anorexia, or gambling at the casinos versus, the lottery tickets, or stealing, or whatever. All I know is there's a buffet table out there somewhere where somebody gravitates for whatever reason or reasons to a certain kind of addiction. And nowadays, if you hadn't already known, most people who come to me have had more than one addiction, either one after the other, because sometimes people will stop one and very unwittingly pick up another in its place. And many people have more than one going on at the same time. They may come to me for a particular addiction that I specialize in, and I might refer them out for one I don't, or we might, if it's not that active, we might be able to work with it a little bit. But really, it's probably, again, like I said earlier, there may be a complex kind of combination of things. There may be genetic or hereditary risk factors. I don't know that we've identified a shopaholic gene, but people who have addiction in their family history, even on one side or the other, or skips a few history of mental illness, these risk factors. however we develop our personalities. They like to divide it up just kind of in type A, type B. I don't know if that's fair, but there's a lot of people who are like a triple A or a triple B, where they're really driven, and that can be uh, partly genetic nature and partly nurture. You form, so I get a lot of type A's, particularly in my work, but some type B's, people who just really can't tolerate any stress. They just want to lay back and they want to zone out. So the type B people, and this is where internet, it can be exciting, but it's kind of like, if you're a type B gambler, you're more likely to be like kind of more of a laid back. You're more likely to be behind the slot machine, putting in nickels or quarters and zoning out for hours on end. A lot of type B people like that. I don't want a lot of high risk and, drama. And I mean, if you're a type A, and you can develop from a type B to type, you might be more at the craps table, high stakes poker, things like that. But so there's, genetic factors, nature and nurture, and then things that happen in our formative years, family dysfunction. Nobody has a perfect family. Again, we zero in on different unresolved losses, traumas, self-esteem issues, interpersonal issues. And then we have, was it modeled for us? So a lot of times, I will have people, we're not blaming anybody, but I'll commonly have people's, clients who say, well, my mom shopped a lot and that's kind of what we did. And I got anything I wanted. Or my dad even shopped a lot, or, and then there was secrecy. Dad said, don't tell mom I bought this for you, or some kind of weird thing going on there. And then conversely, I hear another half of my clients will say, we had no money growing up. I was always envious of the other kids on the block who seemed to get whatever they wanted. And I was frustrated. And then when I got my first job and my first credit card, it wasn't planned, but I guess I went hog wild, and then I couldn't turn it back. So a lot of interesting issues we zero in on. And also, just again, as I said before, but I'll repeat again, our culture and our advertising is very clever and very insidious. I like to sometimes think, who are all these commercials for? Boy, they're not going to get me. They're wasting money on me. But you know what? Peck, 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 peck. Before you know it, you're buying a new car, you're buying a home, you're trying to live the American dream, or you're buying this for no damn darn reason at all. So it's very, just we need to kind of really appreciate that, and try to monitor our TV time and our usage. But it's out there and it's full on. They are very bright at how to kind of manipulate us. Let me just see a show of hands here for those who I can see, and maybe I can't see everybody, and this is all private and confidential, even if you can see, we're just creating a safe place here. How many of you here today maybe have ever thought that you or someone you know, based on kind of what I've said so far, maybe seems like at some point you or someone you've known maybe has had enough of a shopping or spending problem that it's more than a flash in a pan. It's like maybe a real problem here. Anybody? Okay, some hands are up. Some, yeah. I imagine I've got a kind of a captive audience here of people who already were interested in this topic. But in terms of the frequency or the commonness of this, we really don't know, I don't think. But about 15 years ago, there was a landmark study out of Stanford University in California that was studying what they called compulsive buying disorder, which was a term that was kind of thrown around a little bit. And this is 15 years ago, but they roughly estimated that about 6 or 7% of the population maybe would fit what they felt were their criteria for compulsive buying disorder, which were very similar to how we might diagnose a gambling disorder or a drug, or a lot of the same things, like excessive use, loss of control, difficulty stopping, withdrawal symptoms if you stop for very long, like you crave it and you relapse and go back, cravings, and negative consequences that aren't enough to seem to wake people up very readily. So just a general kind of ballpark. There was a study done a couple years later in 2008 where they estimated it like about 9.5, 10%. That's the figure that I kind of use for now, but I think we need to, it might be more. But if you think about like how many people are alcoholic or how many people know an alcoholic, that it's roughly 10%, actually a little less, who fit the criteria for alcoholism. and yet almost everybody knows an alcoholic. So probably everybody knows a shopaholic, at least 6 degrees of separation. You just may not know because you don't know. They're hiding it, or you're missing the signs or whatever. But it's a fair amount of people, and it's only growing. It's only getting worse. And men and women are affected about equally. There may be different kinds of things that men buy in general, but they can be into clothes and jewelry and everything too. Might be more electronics. Some guys might be more prone to like buy a motorcycle or several cars or whatever. But there's not a stereotype. I have male clients too. And again, with this 24/7 internet kind of availability, um, uh, Houston, we've got a problem. It's really a problem. So money conflicts. I did not know this when I started getting into this work about 15 years ago. But this is something I keep reading, and maybe you've heard it, maybe you haven't. That arguments about money and finances, and even if there's not shopaholism in it, even just conflicts about money generally. But if you have a partner or both partners who are shopaholics, whew, all bets are off. There's going to be usually a lot of conflict. They are the most common cause of strife and conflict and breakups or divorces. I had thought, as I think many people, wait, I thought sex problems or romance problems or those are a close second. And a lot of times, from what I've read, partly why couples are having problems, not always, but with romance or sex or things like that or intimacy, is because there's money problems affecting that. So I don't know if you've known anybody or you've been in relationships. Most people have. My wife and I do pretty good not arguing about money, but we have had some arguments about money. We have different values. And then you bring kids in the equation, and that's a whole nother thing. And typically can have one partner who wants to spend more, one who wants to save more. And they might start off a little bit apart, and then over time they start drifting further apart and they play off each other. So the spender is resisting the saver, and the saver is trying to monitor the spending, and before you know, it's like a civil war, and they're all the way over here. And there's a big gulf between them, and maybe one wants to spend more on the children, and the others, no, don't spoil them. And all these different, money is a very complicated issue. um, and some of you may have heard this figure. It probably needs to be updated, but the average American, not family, just individual American who uses any kind of credit cards, could be one card or more, has at least $10,000, is the average, in debt just for discretionary spending. Again, that could be going out to dinner too much, concerts, vacation, clothing, whatever. Um, it may be more, and the whole COVID thing has been a real wild card for the last year in terms of money issues. Um, my clients sometimes have tens of thousands of dollars and even hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. But I also have clients who have no debt, and they come to me for other reasons, the arguments with partners or family. Some people are even single, but they just don't like how this has overtaken them, and they aren't managing their time wisely, and they don't have enough time for their relationships or their projects or their work or their kids because they're shopping all the time. Um, there's a lot of different reasons besides just debt, but debt is very common. And as the New York Times and USA Today has been sounding the alarm repeatedly, this problem is on the rise, and yet it's still not an official disorder. So it's generally not covered by any kind of medical insurance or health insurance. You'd probably have to write it up under something else that might be going on, like depression or anxiety. And a lot of people wouldn't even think to go to a therapist or a support group for these kinds of problems. They would probably go to an accountant or a financial advisor. And while that's a first good step, and maybe some of those professionals are able to help, um, when you've got something going on psychologically and emotionally and addictively, you really probably need, a therapist who knows what he or she is doing. And that's the second problem. We don't have very many therapists for whatever reason, who find an interest in studying this and treat this. So there's very limited help. We do need more help. Modern life, however you want to define that. I mean, I kind of roughly define it from about 1980 on, just for this way I look at it. But you can define it how you want. But more commercials, not just on the billboards at TV, but everywhere, pop-ups, social media, everything in your email box. It's just full on. While style has always been kind of a thing, I think it's gotten, Remember, you've probably all heard the phrase "keeping up with the Joneses," right? The Joneses used to be the neighbors down the block, or some people, and that was hard enough. Now we've got a program that is finally going off the air after a decade of keeping up with the Kardashians. I mean, and that's kind of not just with them actually, but that you get the flavor of like, and even if you kind of laugh at them or think, "Oh my God," come on, there's kind of a caricature of it, but it's in your face constantly, and there are a lot of people who are directly and indirectly kind of pulled into, I've got to have the best. I've got to have this designer thing or this, or I've got to get this done or that done. It plays on our fears about not being good enough. It plays on our desire to be loved and to be thought of well. And that's kind of advertising. And bigger is better, so people were getting mega homes and mega cars and everything. There's something, but and how much is enough? And now we got shopping channels on TV where some people do that, and people are also, now there's a cycle going on that I've seen quite a bit, where there's workaholism and shopaholism that play off of each other. I'm not always sure what comes first, the chicken or the egg, but sometimes a little of both. So maybe somebody is a natural workaholic and they're not getting help for that problem, or they don't even know it. And so they maybe feel like, well, I'm working so hard and I'm making halfway decent money, I'm going to live a little. And then they maybe start spending, and then, maybe they start overspending. And before you know it, now they're in debt, or they think they have to keep getting a new home or whatever. And so now they've got to work harder or work longer or never retire. And then the other can start first, where if somebody develops a shopping problem, and but before they know it, now they have to get a second job, or they have to postpone retirement, or they've cashed out their 401k to pay their credit card bills, and now retirement is nowhere in sight. So there's a lot of that. If I were being very cynical, I would say that Big Brother, or the culture wants us to be a nation of consumeraholics and workaholics. Like, we want to consume, buy, stimulate the economy, and work like little worker bees, and then drop dead, or never die. I mean, that's kind of a dark view, but that's how people can be living, and it's very insidious. So common reasons, again, why do people overshop or overspend? These are, kind of common for anything. Why do people drink? Why do people overeat? Why do people work? Why do people so, but just basic human reasons, these are all valid, in my opinion. I don't think too many people, these are all wonderful, most of them wonderful, beautiful, natural reasons. I want to feel better about myself. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just like, how do we go about that? And there's a variety of ways. And unfortunately, addiction can be very seductive. So people take a drink and they're loosened up, a social lubricant, and you're the life of the party, and you're feeling better about yourself. You're less socially anxious. Okay, great. But you got to be careful, because like that can get out of whack. Or you're dieting and you've lost weight and you feel better about yourself. Well, if I feel better about myself when I'm at my healthy weight, imagine if I lose 10 or 20 more pounds. Or if I'm having nice clothing and I'm getting compliments. Well, why not? I'm going to buy better clothing. So it's very, very insidious. Obviously, I think obviously, to avoid dealing with something important, you got a lot of stress, a lot of issues you don't want to deal with. Could be one, could be more, and shopping can just take your mind off it. Now, I'm not a prude. Every now and then, if you're having a bad day, you're probably going to polish off at least a little quart of Ben and Jerry's ice cream. But if you keep going to that, or you keep shopping to put it off, now things pile up, and then it becomes that cycle. Sometimes it's in direct response to a very difficult life stressor, a trauma, a loss. As I alluded to earlier, sometimes people rebel. Maybe they didn't have money, or they were told to be frugal, and there's all kinds of rebellion. Or maybe their partner is trying to put a limit on their spending, all kinds of rebellion issues. Whether buying for ourselves to treat ourselves if we haven't felt much love, or we felt abandonment, maybe we're nurturing ourselves, which can be well-intended, but I think we would agree there's a lot of healthy ways to nurture ourselves. And also sometimes we're buying more for other people than even ourselves, which is a real tricky one, because I have a lot of clients like that, and they're like, but I'm not buying for me. I'm not selfish or anything. I mean, I'm giving, but you can still overdo that, the time, the money, and the energy. And that is often a real difficult issue for the partner. You know, when they see their partner spending all this money that maybe could go into the family coffers, and they're spending it on their family, their friends. So um, just to soothe yourself or lift your mood, it can be pretty automatic for some people. Our image, which is kind of like feeling better about ourselves, but our image, I'm successful, I'm powerful, I'm beautiful, I'm whatever. And you don't have to be necessarily shallow to, I mean, I don't think any of this, I mean, we're all human beings and we do want to fit in and belong. That's one of our basic human needs, but we got to be careful about it because it can get out of whack. And the advertisers, someone's pulling the strings. And we want to be the one pulling our own strings about what we really want. And we are a very appearance obsessed society. Even if you think of yourself not being that way, it's hard not to kind of buy into that a bit. And some people, for whatever reason, are just a little more vulnerable than it. And I have a lot of compassion. In the old days, I used to really judge people, and not have very much compassion for them if they got into debt or they, but you never, it reminds me of a story, and this is true, after 9/11, the 9/11 attacks, uh, there was a woman whose husband died in the Twin Towers when they came down, and he was, I don't know if he was a financier or something, but a wealthy person. He had a big life insurance policy that paid out, plus there was a 9/11 fund for families of victims. And this woman, and she happened to live in New York, and she was a middle-aged woman, or maybe in her 50s, and apparently, when she got this money, she went on a huge shopping spree all around town. Somehow word got out, it hit the tabloids, and they painted her as a woman who was just cold and had no grief over her husband's loss or anything, and just was enjoying all this money and woohoo, living large. Well, she was on Oprah not long after that, when Oprah had her show, and with her adult daughter. And it was really a sad story. It was anything that was not even the truth, but that's how they painted her. She was in immense grief and trauma, and she didn't know what to do. So she distracted herself with this money, got out of control, went through millions of dollars until she was broke, became the laughing stock of the local press. And even friends, I think, had turned on her. And her daughter all along saw this happening, was trying to help her, like trying to stop your parent who's an alcoholic or drug addict. But they finally both came on, and they were both crying, and it was very moving. And that was around the time I started to get into this, about 15 years ago, roughly. And I remember that story, and it was so sad. And over time, I realized when I see somebody shopping, and I don't know what all the details are, but I wonder, what's really going on? Is there pain? Is there loss? Is something? Are they filling a void? Is something going on? Again, like I said, the lesser of the evil. I could be a drug addict. I mean, no addictions are I'm not going to get into argument of which are worse or better. They all lead to a lot of misery. Some people feel more in control. They feel a sense of control when they get a bargain, or they get what they want, or they, all kinds of things. And sometimes it is like, as long as I'm still buying or having stuff, or I've got these plans and I'm doing this, and I'm dressing, I'm feeling, you can almost feel invincible, or like you'll never die. But as they say, you can't take it with you. And how many of you want on your tombstone, or as your eulogy, man, could she find a good bargain? I mean, maybe, maybe if that deceased one had a sense of humor, maybe they'd appreciate it, but it can be a kind of sad state. I kind of went over this a little bit. Again, some of my clients have they've been spoiled or overindulged, and I'm not, and most of my clients are pretty keen now. It used to be this can still happen. People would walk in and blame their mom or dad for everything. But a lot of people have had enough therapy where they'll say things like, I don't want to blame my mom, or I don't want to blame my dad. I said, good, neither do I. But tell me what you say. Okay, well, my mom was kind of a shopaholic, or my dad was kind of a shopaholic, or we had a lot of fun shopping, and probably I got a little spoiled. Okay, like a jigsaw puzzle, that might be one piece. There's probably more, and we try to put together a little puzzle, or layers of the onion. And then being deprived. Often, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the 5 love languages. You may have heard of the book. I've done a few presentations, but it's a good book, the 5 love languages. It's been around for about 3 decades, but there are different ways to show our love to each other, and nothing's perfect here. But the premise of the book is that there's one way we show love to ourselves and others is through gifts, giving of gifts. Now, some people just are not, for whether naturally or not, they're not big gift givers, or they like to give, but they don't want to receive. But, gifts is one way. Touch in different forms. Uh, Kind words or words of affirmation, like thank you, I love you, I'm proud of you, I'm so glad you're my wife or my partner. So a lot of times we long for just kind words. Quality time, the classic case, but now this is true with a lot of women too, but it used to be when, the men were the ones pretty much working outside the home. When, it's like, I know my dad loved me. He put, food on the table and he was a good dad, if you're lucky enough to have somebody, but like he was always busy or tired when he got home. I never felt like I got his time and attention. Actually, my wife says that sometimes to me too. And I have a home office, for God's sakes, but that's for another story. But so quality time, however you define that, giving quality time, receiving quality time. And then another one is acts of service. There's different ways of showing your love. Really bringing home the bacon for your family is an act of service. Cleaning the house, taking the car in, all these acts of service that parents do for their kids on a daily basis, or we do for each other. And the point I'm making is I think somehow over the course of time, it's gotten so easy to give gifts to ourselves or others, or money or gifts. I think as we've gotten busier, of course, the internet has made it easier to do that and everything. But like, and I think there's a lot of unsatisfied and people out here, or people who feel unloved, even though you're giving them money and give. I remember my dad tried to do that after my folks got divorced. He would, you know, because he was limited in what he could do otherwise emotionally and things, and was a recovering alcoholic, and the marriage broke up and all that. But he would take us out to dinner. He'd rent a big house with a built-in pool, and sometimes take us on vacations and concerts. And no doubt I liked all that. But even at a young age, really, I intuitively knew I would just like to have a sober father who I felt like I could talk to and not have to worry about. I mean, I would have traded in all the gift, so like, but a lot of times, like, we settle for gifts, or that's the way. And I think gifts have their place, but again, I remember a time, I don't want to, like I said before, where gifts had their place. Birthdays, special occasions, sometimes a holiday, um and that would be it. And then, but now it's like, whether we're giving to ourselves, or people are wanting gifts like almost every day, at least every week. It's like gift, 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 something's going on. So we talk about that. Probably one of the most difficult things for parents, I don't have biological children or kids, but is trying to have your kids not feel deprived, but also not spoil them. It's I don't know if there's a sweet spot in there, but it's probably impossible. My joke is, all of our kids, no matter how hard we try, are probably going to end up in therapy. The best we can hope for is they could pay for it themselves. Okay, that might sound a little dark, but I had to pay for my own therapy. Okay. um the other thing too, again, an overeater, people think like, I mean, kind of, we know, like, it's not really about the taste of the food. And people who are drinking and downing alcohol, maybe a little bit, but it's not about the taste. They want the feeling. So, even, money is not about money, and the stuff is not about the stuff. It's a currency, basically. So a lot of people, we try to show our caring through giving gifts, which is appropriate at times, but sometimes that's not enough, or that's not the right currency. Um, um, Buying things for people, or gifts, or sharing your life with them might be something that, in a good way, but sometimes in an unhealthy way, a demonstration of commitment. But it can be anything, like, like if two couples are arguing over, how big a wedding should we have? And do we want to start out our marriage in the red, in debt, and then there's very delicate things that, well, are you committed to this relationship? I mean, we're only going to get married once, and this should be a very, all kinds of interesting things about the pressures back and forth, and belonging. And, even in a family with, when parents might spend more on one kid for something, and another one can feel slighted, and then trust about money, and, and a lot of power and control. It's very deep. This local therapist, uh, wrote about, looking at people's lives through different crucibles. And one could be, sex, looking at people's sexual lives, and figuring out aspects of their personality, and their different psychological issues. But you could also look at money. You could look at a lot of different things, but it's a very complex kind of issue. And we really, we I would submit that in our culture, the American culture, the US of A, the beacon of capitalism, there is more taboo around talking about money or debt or our money issues than there is about far more than there is about like sex and romance. I've been much more open with friends about different things, aspects of my relationship, maybe much to the chagrin about from my wife at times. I think we're much more open about that. But I remember even a few years ago, one of my best friends, like he was asking me how work was going, and then a few years ago, and I said it's going on. He knows I've been self-employed for a while, and then he came right out and said, "Do you mind my asking how much money do you make per year?" And I was floored. And even though I work with this all the time, I could not answer him. I did not feel comfortable for whatever reasons. Partly I felt I was doing all right, and I really didn't want him to feel envious or jealous or shocked. Now, some people don't want to mention that because they're under earning or they may be making money, but they got a lot of debt. So there's embarrassment if you're making not what you feel is not enough money. And then people often feel embarrassed if they're making too much money or they don't want people to look at them different. It's a really complex subject. Um, so we talk a lot about this in therapy too at times. Um, this is one of my favorite little slides here. I did not create this. I forget who did. But when I work with people, and this is in my book and on my website too, but I often try to figure out what is their money subtype, or there's, like, and many times they'll have more than one of these. So like I do have clients who, like they're primarily what we would call a compulsive shopper, meaning their pattern is, uh, and they could have a pattern like after a long day of work, like having a drink or whatever, or having a donut or whatever, they want to shop, or when there's some kind of emotional turbulence, they want to shop. And it doesn't really matter what, man, sometimes they might buy more, sometimes they might buy less, sometimes they might be in a store or online, but like they're really trying to soothe their emotions. That's primarily it. Um, there are people who are trophy shoppers, meaning they can get on the hunt for something. It could be expensive, inexpensive, rare, not rare, but this perfect thing. And it can take a lot of their time and energy. And then they finally find it and get it or buy it. And they're content or fulfilled for a relatively brief period of time. And then they're on to the next thing. Now, again, I'm not here to judge anybody if you're feeling put on the spot. I've had probably a little bit of all of these in some way, but uh, fortunately not too much. But that can be kind of a pattern, and that's an interesting thing to explore what's going on there. This is probably one of the more common ones that I deal with, as you might know, image shopping. So again, most of my clients are women, and I do not envy what a lot of women go through at whatever age or whatever culture. That's pretty full on, to and the amount of money that even the average woman spends just on clothes, haircuts, nails. Even if you're not a super diva or anything, it's a lot of money. Women are the engine of the economy, basically. um, and most of us guys wouldn't buy anything except either our wives are kind of saying, hey, can't we remodel this or update, so we would just be stuck in a barn probably without you guys. So I'm not blaming. I'm actually saying, wow. But image could be about home, could be how your kids dress, the car you drive. And then the question is, how much is enough? And then once you think you've gotten it, you might find somebody with a better car and better home. And, so that whole vicious cycle of that. So image is a big thing, not only body image, but, just how we're living. This is like another big one, bargain shopping, where I've known people, there's an old saying, boy, we sure are going broke saving money. So you have to spend money to save money. And I've known people who've gone bankrupt, even bargain shopping. And if that's anyone, that is one. This one I relate to too. We talked about it earlier. I talked about codependent, where you're giving more you're buying more for others. It could be your partner, it could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be your neighbors. I actually like giving gifts more than receiving. And I do buy little cards for some of my neighbors, like for Mother's Day. I don't mind that, they're dollar cards, but I like giving, but that can get out of whack. A binge or bulimic. How many of you ever heard? I mean, it's kind of, I know it's kind of a rough way to put it, but another way to put it would be a returnaholic. So there are people who buy and return, whether it's online, they buy a bunch of stuff and then they don't really know what they want, or they get multiple sizes. They get a lot of things in the mail. It's pretty chaotic. They got to go through it, and then they got to take the time to send it all back. So they might buy 10 things, and they'll send back, even at the store, if they have to go back to the store, and they'll take back about 5. But while they're there, they'll pick up another 6. They bring that home, and they return 3. And it adds up. It's almost like, from what I learned about actual bulimia, where um, people feel like they can have the food but not the calories, but actually usually they end up getting sick from bulimia, which can really be difficult on the body, with the gastric acids coming up through your esophagus, and actually your metabolism goes haywire. It's not, and I dated a girlfriend in college who was secretly bulimic, and I only knew it at the end because she told me. And she wasn't she wasn't overweight, but she wasn't a skinny mini. I would have never thought. And I thought somehow if you were bulimic, that was the same as anorexic. It isn't actually, but buying and returning, that can be a pattern. Collectors, I have nothing against collecting, but if you have multiple collections, if it becomes so obsessive, if it creates clutter and you're overspending and you're in debt, that can be a way it shows up in an out of control way with spending. And then, and as I said earlier, some people aren't buying so much material things, but lifestyle, vacations, that. And underspending is a whole nother thing, where people can hoard money and not spend. I used to be a little like that, where it was hard for me to treat myself, and even hard to be generous with other people. I would much more do it as a favor or a kind word than a gift, because I didn't like spending money. I had to learn how to actually come a little more to the middle. So these are, and again, people can go from one to the other. Often they have several going on at the same time. So it's just interesting, and it helps people kind of notice their pattern. And then we figure out, what is it about the bargain, or what is, we kind of zero in, what is about the image, we try to figure out what the hook is in the way they're doing it. Consequences of compulsive spending can be numerous, and usually are. And this list could easily apply to someone with a drug addiction, an alcohol addiction. Again, there can be legal issues, divorce, bankruptcy, creditors coming after you. There can be financial issues, no retirement, difficulty paying the bills, employment. As a matter of fact, some employers are not only doing criminal background checks. I don't know if this is illegal, but I remember 10 years ago hearing about more and more employers wanted to do a credit score check. Do you have a good credit? Because I can kind of understand it, though it may be unfair, because some people may have not great credit for a variety of good reasons, not because they're financially irresponsible, but that can, like, if you're constantly stressed out about money. And also, a lot of people do end up stealing when they're under stress. So a lot of my embezzlement clients have had problems with overshopping, overspending. A lot of my shoplifting clients first started as shopaholics and then ran out of money, so they're now taking it. Or they come home and their husband or wife is nagging about, what they bought, and so they start slipping a few things in their pocket or purse. There's all kinds of different things. A lot of relational issues, whether with your children and mixing them up about money and things like that, and self-esteem, self-respect, lost time and direction. This is a lot of chaos that takes a lot of time and energy. Religious or spiritual disconnectedness, like happened with the woman after the 9/11 attacks with her husband, and her spending all the money on Fifth Avenue, loss of reputation in the community, or the whispers of, guess who's in debt, guess who filed for bankruptcy, all these things of judgment. There's a lot of consequences. All right, let me just check my time here over at my clock here. Okay. So a healthy, now we each define recovery for ourselves. And unlike a lot of recoveries, like alcohol recovery and drug recovery, gambling recovery, where kind of how treatment centers work and support groups like AA, the gold standard remains, with some exceptions, is like, once you cross the line, no drinking, no drugging. If you're an alcoholic, they recommend not using drugs. If you're a drug addict, they recommend alcohol is a drug. Gambling to varying degrees, like, nope, not even buying a lottery ticket. Sometimes not even putting money in the stock market unless you're going to have it managed by an advisor and not, do it yourself. All kinds of things like that. But if you're an overeater, and I often use this with my shopaholic, I was like, it's kind of analogous. Eating is more primary. You have to eat every day generally. You don't necessarily have to shop every day, but it's kind of a close second. Most people are going to shop or need something or need to spend money. So the goal of recovery for a shopaholic is not to never shop again, which is much to the chagrin of the partners who that's how they tend to look at recovery. Okay, hubby, wifey, guess what? All right, you're in recovery, so you've already shopped enough for about 5 lifetimes. So from here on out, I'm doing the shopping, and you don't need anything. That doesn't all, but everybody has to find it for him or herself. But here's a possible model, and I work with my clients, and this is easier said than done, but it's very interesting. So here's 5 questions. Now, I did not invent this, but one of my colleagues, allowed me to use this, and I think it's a good model. Now it sounds very easy, but it's not. So to be more need-oriented than want-oriented, but as you can imagine, that's a sticky wicket. But I think to help people cognitively learn that a lot of what they're buying is not necessarily needed, but is wanted. It may feel like a need, but if we can pare it down for a while and start getting a little more clear on, do I need this? And then maybe occasionally buying things we want. And again, I'm not here to dictate whether, but I'm here to teach them this model and to get them thinking about it so they can figure out, can I afford this? Sounds like a very simple question. It's not, because people can have all different. So some of my clients, it's not uncommon for them. Well, can I afford this? Well, I still have about $10 on my last credit card. I can afford it. Well, or whatever. Or I could always get another credit card. They're offering another credit card, whatever. But meanwhile, they got $60,000 of debt and they're drowning and they're on the verge of divorce and kids are crying. But affordability, we have to get a new idea of what does that mean. And while I'm not a financial advisor, I do encourage people to work with one or an accountant. In general, you've got you're not spending more than you're taking in. So I'll do a rough budget with people, and that and we do want to pay down this debt if there's debt, and you maybe can't do it overnight, but you do it over time. So some money in the budget goes to paying down the debt before you keep buying a lot of new stuff, and then maybe a little bit goes to an emergency fund in a savings account in case like you can't work or the car breaks down and you don't have to keep putting things on credit. And then some form of retirement account. I mean, people don't have to do that, but I highly suggest that they start fund so and that so you're that would be kind of affordability. So if I'm doing all that, it doesn't mean you completely starve yourself and don't buy anything until you're out of debt or you've got the emergency savings account funded. But we got to think about it. Do I have space for this? Now, not all shopaholics are hoarders, because hoarding is a thing where it takes over so much of the space that you start to not be able to use 1 room, 2 rooms for its intended purpose. It's way too cluttered, or it's dangerous, and they have a hard time with hoarding disorder, letting go of almost anything. So I have shopaholics who do accumulate, but then they can donate it pretty readily or gift it or resell it on Etsy or whatever. So they may not have a hoarding thing, but there is a crossover. A lot of people who do have the shopping addiction also become hoarders, where it really takes over the space and they have a hard time letting go of anything. Now, not all hoarders are shopaholics. A small section are, but many people who hoard, just as a side note, they're picking up things by the side of the road. Maybe they're getting things really on good deals at the garage sale or thrift, or maybe someone has died and you take in all their stuff and you don't know what to do with it, or even what we call passive accumulation. You may not even be a super consumer, but you can be a hoarder just if you are not managing and discarding things that come into your home in the normal course of living. Junk mail, magazines, newspapers, packaging material, food that might go bad or you don't eat, clothing over the course of time that you're never going to wear again, it doesn't fit, gifts you're not using, variety of things. That's called passive hoarding. You're not like on Amazon or picking up things by the side of the road, or it's just like you're not managing, so but space. And again, it's not my value. It's like trying to figure out what they want and what if their family members want. And again, really trying to delay gratification. We've all heard that phrase, but that's something with, can I wait to buy this? So even, I encourage people to monitor their internet usage. And in rare cases, people might have to take an internet holiday. Just like sometimes with porn, they get a blocker so they can't go to websites, or gambling, that can, be useful some. But I mean, recovery is more than that. I mean, you try to buy yourself some time and work on the issues, but can I wait to buy this? So even if it's like, instead of like, put the damn thing in your cart if you're going to go on, and at least wait 24 hours, you might find that in the morning, you may not want it as much. Even we can start with small steps. Is everything an urgency? No, but people feel like it is because they've gotten so used to wanting something and let me get it. And then, of course, you got flash sales and all this kind of thing, like one of a kind, and you better get it now or you're going to lose it, or the price is going to go up. And the holiday shopping and Black Friday, you're going to get, there are deals that go on 24/7, 365. We've been wired to think like, oh my God. And really, if we also want to kind of start thinking about, and we do, what am I really looking for? And it probably isn't stuff. Yeah, I mean, stuff has its place, but here's where it gets tricky. People will sometimes be, somewhat insightful, and they go, I know why I'm doing this. I'm in an unhappy marriage, but I don't want to get a divorce. And I'm like, I'm sorry to hear that. And so, like, I know why I'm doing it, and I want love, but I just really can't have it. So I feel very unsatisfied, and it sucks. And so, I try to be compassionate, but you got to be careful because people can be very, on the self-pity and the victim mode, and they're hurting themselves, and often they're hurting others, and it's not really a great solution. I'm saying, so I get you're unhappy and you may not get divorced and whatever, but are there other ways you can try to fulfill other aspects of your life with other, friendships or hobbies, or get, I mean, if that's your choice to stay in an unhappy marriage, I'm not telling you what to do or not, but I get it. That's a tricky one, but, or you're in an unhappy job, but you're not willing or ready to leave. Now, sometimes people do get to the point where they will eventually leave an unhealthy relationship, unhappy, or job, but not usually right away. So what else can we do as a lifeline besides drinking, shopping, whatever? And it's easier said than done, but we're trying to do that. So again, healthy shopping spending is just one model, is a little more thought out than impulsive. And I think most people can agree. It's just the practice of it. It sounds logical, but when you're so, how do you do it? But you got to practice it. Open and honest versus secretive. So in situations where there's hiding or lying, like financial infidelity with a partner, you got to figure out, just like if you've had affairs, you got to figure out a system of learning how to be open and honest more, and have some accountability, and and develop trust, and let people see your bank accounts if need be, and things like that. Um, More need based than want based, especially with the kids. But the kids need this. You're going to get, and I don't know what the right answer is all the time, but you got to start slowing it down and just really kind of, not everything is a need. It can't be a need. And affordable, what is the new paradigm for affordability? We got to talk about that. And, level headed, you've heard the term emotional eating. Well, when people are in recovery from food addiction, it's not like, they're not going to get some enjoyment of food, but my wife's been in recovery from, compulsive eating for over 20 years. And, she's got to kind of watch her emotions and make sure she can enjoy her food and look forward to a certain kind of, it doesn't mean she has to be, okay, I will just eat this food as a robot. I will not enjoy, not like that, but if she's feeling really tense, or that, she has to watch out for emotional eating, and we have to watch out for emotional shopping. So, if we can get kids while they're young and teach them the value of saving a little bit, and waiting and all that kind of thing, and things are nice, but give them the other kinds of love. And obviously, if you have a two-parent household, if they're both healthy, that's great. If you have one parent household, you do what you can, but with a two-parent, if you can get both parents a little bit on the same page, so they're not giving mixed messages. I know nothing's perfect. I'm all for working with financial advisor or accountant, but therapy and support groups might be needed. There's plenty of books and articles out there about this. If you do find a therapist, try to at least ask, have you ever worked with a shopping problem? If they laugh at you or say no, you might want to try somewhere else. But again, one of the issues is there aren't a lot of therapists out there yet. I hope that will change in time. There are some support groups out there like Spenders Anonymous, Under Earners Anonymous, Debtors Anonymous. While there's no magic pill for a shopping problem, sometimes medication can be helpful if you've got depression going on and you can barely function, and you're too prone to using shopping as an antidepressant. Maybe if you have a more level mood, or an anxiety thing, or a bipolar thing, or an OCD thing, or ADHD, yes, they're helpful. Not a magic pill. Therapy and groups and learning is Budgeting, everybody hates that word, but once you get into it, it isn't that bad, and it can be very valuable to give you a clear picture of what's going on. The truth may set us free. First, it might really freak us out, but you got to open up those credit card envelopes and get an accounting. You got to get on the scale at some point and figure out how heavy you are. I know it's hard, but if you do it with the right people, and just re-clarifying your values, what do you really value, trying to help people figure that out. And then, like with anything, what triggers you? Is it the internet? Is it an argument? Is it that particular store? Is it, holidays? There are all kinds of things that prompt us. And we can't necessarily avoid them, but we can become aware of them and try to slow it down and find different ways to cope. Again, resources here. And there's various books, including a couple that I've written. So I want to leave about 15 minutes. We didn't get to the video, but there are videos on my website. I'm going to do this here. Let's open up the mics here and get some questions or comments here. And by the way, here's my website real quick, just so you know, theshulmancenter.com. And if you go under the menu option, you can find out more about overshopping, overspending, but also the video archive. I was going to show you video, but I ran out of time. Video archive, go to the overspending videos, and you can click on any of these boxes on your own time and watch a lot of cool. I guess there's 9 of them ranging in 5 minutes to half an hour long. So we've got let's say 10, 15 minutes, possibly if we're able to go over a little bit. Anybody have a question or comment, or you want to share anything? I know that was a lot to digest in about an hour and 15 minutes. Anybody? And everything's confidential here. And I don't profess to have every perfect answer, but I want to hear you out. You might ask something that's interesting, and I will do my best to give you some help. Are all the mics off, or you're going to do one at a time?
They can unmute themselves.
Oh, you can unmute yourself now. Okay, maybe that was okay.
And oh wait, I did change it. Did somebody click it and say, okay, so you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Did somebody have a question?
I will say there was one question.
Okay.
What is your feeling about the term retail therapy?
Well, I know there's a website. I get an email from these people. They call themselves retail therapy, and I'm not even sure what they do. So I'm a realist. I know there are going to be terms like that. I'm not gonna fight them, but I do think we need to be careful about it. That's all I'll say. So I'm trying to be a realist. You can't change it. And some people joke about it. I have a sense of humor. I do remember, I think we're evolving and having a little more sensitivity, not as much as I like, but I do remember about 10 years ago around the holiday season, and I live here in Oakland County, Michigan, and there's a very Tony, cute little town called Birmingham, Michigan. And I remember getting a flyer in the mail maybe about a decade ago, right around the beginning of the end of the year holiday season. And it was put out by a variety of the merchants on one of the main stretches of downtown Birmingham. And it literally said, "Oh, come all ye shopaholics." Like from the song, "Oh, come all ye faithful, oh, come all ye shopaholics." And it had little pictures of all the different stores. And I'm like, oh my God, I mean, I'd only been working in this area for about 5 years, but I was still a little shocked. I haven't seen that ever again. Doesn't mean it's not out there, but so I do think people are becoming a little more sensitive to it, but we're not going to get rid of everything. Even giving away marijuana, cigarettes, and shots of booze to get a shot of the vaccine is kind of funny, and I get it. I mean, anything to lure people, but that could be pretty tempting so you can't protect everybody. I get it, but so I don't know if that was a great answer, but anybody else?
Oh, there's one question in the chat.
Okay.
You mentioned US culture and the impact on behavior. Do you see clients from other cultures? Is it less common in other countries?
Okay. So I'll offer this disclaimer. I have not done a whole lot of research on other countries. Now, But I have had some clients from other countries, from Canada. I'm working with a woman actually who is Moroccan. She lives currently in Morocco, Northern Africa. Uh, it's pretty safe to say that this is a global problem, except maybe in some small cases because everybody has access to the internet. And because a lot of countries that we used to call third world countries have either increased their wealth enough and have the internet, so they are wanting a lot of things too. But even here in America, you know, we have a mix of cultures, obviously. So there's the Western American culture, but everybody can have their subculture, whether first generation or, and I've worked with a number of people, so Asian Americans, several, uh, yeah, all different religions, all different, it's again, addiction is the great equalizer, is my opinion, as I said earlier, where it's affecting everybody. I think, and I know places like India and China that have booming economies, Brazil, everybody's being affected by the COVID, but there's a lot of consumerism. It wasn't too long ago where in China, everything was made in China, but the Chinese people couldn't even afford what they were making in China and shipping everywhere else. Now, you've seen the news. There's still a lot of poor people around, but so it's a global problem, just like anything. Yeah. Anything else? So here's what I'll say in closing then. Continue to learn about this however you want. There was a segment about 2 minutes long on NBC Nightly News this week about internet addiction. And they were talking very broadly, especially during COVID, how a lot of people who've been kind of homebound have really kind of used the internet and gotten addicted, whether to social media as a way to stay connected, or shopping some people got addicted to, or gambling some people got addicted to, or porn, or just watching silly cat videos till 4 a.m. or workaholism or whatever, video game. I mean, so again, I'm not a prude here. I love the internet, but I know for myself, I have to be careful. I have to really monitor it. I try to, and it's hard because I use it for my work life and my personal use and just entertainment, but whether get out in nature, try to remember, I don't know how many of you feel you have a budget or are doing okay financially, but there are a lot of people who can survive, even on a fairly meager income if they're smart, and a lot of people who have more money than they could ever spend, who are really in distress and a lot of trouble. So be mindful. While I'm not saying having more money isn't a nice thing, but I think a lot of times it can create more problems than it's worth if you're not ready for it. So focus on the things that we do have going well in our life. Ask for help if you have any kind of problem, and whether you go online and find help, or a therapist, or a support group, or a book, or maybe you got one family member or one friend who you really think won't judge you, or so just open up, keep learning about these things. And if you have loved ones who you suspect after tonight might really have a problem, please pass the word on. Say, hey, I attended this interesting thing. I don't know if you're interested, but it's going to be online. And by the way, Samantha, if people wanted to, because you're recording it, view it, would they go back to the Northville Library, District Library website? Would it be up there? Or how would they find out if they wanted to review it, or have somebody look at the
Yeah, absolutely. So after tonight, it's going to be uploaded to, we have a Vimeo site, and we will link it to our website. So on the northvillelibrary.org, you can either go up to the right-hand corner and just click on our Vimeo symbol and it will take you to that page. Or if you go to attend, and then on the left-hand side, it says library videos on demand, it will be listed there. So you
Okay.
can click on that directly to the video, and you can share that link with whoever you want.
Yeah.
It will be posted there.
Yeah, and even though we're a ways off from the holiday season, and I think we've already figured out that, we don't have to wait till the holidays to go bonkers, although the holiday season is a particular time of year, even when COVID isn't happening, that I call it like the best of times and the worst of times, because there's a lot of fun stuff, but almost all addictions spike. So naturally, shopping is a big one, but gambling goes up, eating, drinking, drugging, shoplifting, stealing, hoarding, all kinds of things. So however we can kind of, whatever it is for you, it might be church, it might be a meditation practice, try to the best of your human ability. It doesn't have to be perfect. You better just keep an eye on yourself, find a center point, try to appreciate the simple things in life. If watch especially the internet, because it can be a beautiful tool if we use it properly, and if not, it can really take us under. But I hope you guys have enjoyed tonight and gotten something out of it. I've really appreciated your attention, and thank you, Samantha, and also VG, for having me. I'm very honored, and I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your May and a good start to your summer just around the corner.
Thank you, Terrence, as always. It's always so informative when you come and present for us, and I hope everybody who attended tonight learned something. And again, this video will be posted on the website, so feel free to share with anybody. I'm going to stop recording you.
Thank you.